Flosstube. I'm Pam. Welcome to my channel, Stitching in the Land of Good Enough. This is Flosstube number 64, and today is Wednesday, April 6th. It always feels a little bit like a quiz. Like, do I know what Flosstube this is? Do I know what day this is? Or month even. I can't believe it's already April. If you are a new viewer, welcome. I hope you like what you see and stay a while. And if you're returning, thank you so much. I appreciate you. What do we talk about on this channel? We talk about cross stitch. I do some life updates. I have a cross stitch shop in Massachusetts, so we do a little shop update at the end. Yeah, mostly that's what we talk about. I'm a little fidgety today. I probably had too much caffeine. I had coffee at home this morning. I am trying to get up early, and so I'm drinking a lot of coffee in the morning, and then now I've got a tea. Okay, so we're gonna jump into life updates first. What have I been doing since we've chatted last? I think it's been 2 weeks since my last video. My apologies. I went to Florida. And you know when you go away and then you come back, you have like an enormous amount of work to do, and then you're thinking, why did I go away? It was like that last week, and I did not have a chance to film. And then on top of that, it wasn't even a good trip. We flew down to Fort Myers from Rhode Island, and I don't like to fly. It's not my favorite thing, but usually my flights are fine. We had a bit of a delay situation because the walkway, gangplank, whatever that thing is that connects the airport to the plane, didn't want to disconnect from our plane. So instead of taking off at 10:30 in the morning, we took off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They did deplane us. They had to deplane us and then get fixer-upper guys out there, or maybe even gals too. I wasn't paying that much attention. And they had to they were able to get it a little bit away from the plane, and then the plane had to get towed over to another, it was a thing. So then when we arrived in Fort Myers, and we had to drive my in-laws' car back to Rhode Island. So yeah, that was a fun trip. It was not a fun trip. Anyway, I'm home, and that's wonderful. What else has been going on in my life? I don't mention this very often, but I'm a licensed real estate agent. My husband is, as well as my father-in-law, and now our youngest son. We're a very real estate-y family. I am not actively doing real estate because I'm doing cross-stitch shops. But I still want to keep my license. So it's as only I can. I mean, my middle name should be Procrastinator. I'm Procrastinator Pam. The renewal cycle is up at the end of this month. I have to get all my continuing ed in. I had 2 years to do continuing ed. Do you think I did my continuing ed? Absolutely not. So I have been doing a whole ton of online continuing ed. Shameful. Now, my husband, I've got a shadow behind me. That's going to annoy me. My husband not only is a real estate agent, but he teaches pre-licensed classes and continuing ed. Do you think I took any of his classes in the past 2 years? No, and he's a really good teacher. They would have been enjoyable. The online classes I'm doing are not. So bad Florida trip, not that it was bad, but it wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? And then continuing ed. Ugh. It has no... It's a good thing I have a cross-stitch shop that I love. Okay, and then the birds. I always do a little bit of a bird update because they are, other than cross-stitch, the thing I absolutely love the most. I mean, my family, I love my family, but birds, they come awful close. We've got a pair of red-winged blackbirds in my backyard. I live on the edge of a city, and so when I say my backyard, I really mean my backyard and like the 6 neighbors' backyards around me. The backyards that are all on the same block that like touch each other. So we've got some red-winged blackbirds, which I thought was really cool when I first saw them. And now they're so annoying. Like, I'm not going to try to imitate it, but if you want to know what a red-winged blackbird sounds like, you can Google it. It's really fun, like 5 times, and then gets super annoying. And then I always worry, are my neighbors aggravated that I'm like attracting these noisy birds to our neighborhood? But then I think the neighbor behind me has more feeders than I do. So even if I took mine away, it would still be a thing. Next week, I'm gonna put out the hummingbird feeder and my oriole feeder. It's probably a week early for my oriole feeder, but if I don't do them at the same time, I'll never remember. Either way, it's still early for both of those birds, but you want to get your feeders out for them early, a few weeks before you expect to see them, so that you're all set up and ready to go. And then if some come in early, they'll find your yard, and then when they see that you have food, they'll stay. That's the plan. Last year, I don't think I got my hummingbird feeders out early enough. I mean, I had hummingbirds, but I'd like them to be like, I'd like to have a bunch. Anyway, what have I been stitching on now that we're 5 minutes in? What have I been stitching on since we've chatted last? I have, if you're watching me for the first time, every month I have 2 focus projects that I work 10 days on each, one at the beginning of the month and one at the end of the month. And then I always have a shop project going that I work on Wednesday evenings at our Stitchy group. And sometimes on Saturday stitching groups if it's not busy, but I mean, mostly it's been busy. And then I am stitching on, I always have a daily temperature chart going. So let's do daily temperature chart first. This year I am doing Christie's Corners, Temperature Library 2. It's a bookcase. And here's where I'm at. March is done. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I have shadows today. I feel like I don't normally have shadows. And now the heat's kicking on. I was hoping I could beat the heat. I'm gonna have to, I've been thinking, sorry, I know I'm gonna show stitching, I promise. I've been thinking of going back to filming at home because I feel like I can control the lighting there better. I don't know what's been going on with the lighting here. I'm thinking about it. Anyway, so March. This was the beginning of March. This was the end of March. March was very green. It's like it knew it was St. Patrick's Day. And then I have 2 books into April. I don't technically have my April shelf done yet, but it will get there. Stitching it on 16 count white Aida. And I stitch it every Sunday. I catch up on the week and the temps. And I try to put a length of floss into the bookshelf. I host a couple of Zoom stitching groups, and the last one that we had, we were chatting about what a length of floss meant to you. And I realize now that a length of floss means different things to different people. When I say I put a length of floss in, what that means is when I pull my length out of a 6-stranded cotton floss, and then if I'm stitching 2 over 2 and I pull my 2 threads out, for me that's one length, the 2 threads. Leave 4 behind for next time. Where some people, when they pull a length of, like a length of thread, and they say I stitched a length of thread, they mean all 6 strands. So like 3 lengths of thread if you were stitching 2 over 2. For me, it's just one time threading my needle is a length of thread for me. Okay, then shop project. I'm right now currently working on Big Hearted Tiny Town by Heart and Hand. Am I showing that upside down? I sure am. Big Hearted Tiny Town, Heart and Hand. I'm stitching it on 28 count. I need to go back and watch the video where I showed this for the first time because I didn't write this down. I think that I'm doing it on Dirty Teacup, but it might be 90s Nirvana by Needle and Flax. They're both pretty similar. With the called for floss. Now, this is the project. This was my first time stitching on a plane. I took it on the plane. I was able to actually get 3 good hours of stitching time in. I don't fly well, and I find that, and I was in the middle seat, which was okay because one side of me was the husband and the other side of me was this really small woman, so she didn't take up a lot of space. So I was able to stitch. Anyway, I think on the plane I got this whole situation in the middle here done. Sorry, I've got floss everywhere. So here's where it's at. I'm getting close. Tonight is stitching group, so I'm hoping to get this house done. And then after I get that house done, I gotta look. So I'm hoping to get this house done tonight. I'll just have a couple of houses left. 2 houses, a fence, a tree, some doodads. So close. Couple of weeks, I think, and then this one will be done. I have to sneeze. You know that I was like, this is gonna be one of those situations where I have to sneeze and then it doesn't let me sneeze. Okay. And then I got home from the plane trip and sorry, I get distracted easily. I got home from the plane trip and I realized that I left tiny town at home. And so last Wednesday, I had to start something new. Like, I couldn't not stitch. So I already knew what my next shop project was gonna be. So I decided to just start it early. And it would be Red, She Said. This was a market release this year from Hands On Design. Red, She Said, part of their like banner series. And I think I started this one. And I'm stitching it with the Color and Cotton Floss Pack. I'm currently sold out of the Floss Pack, but I did just place an order for more. This is my first time using Color and Cotton. It's lovely. I'm really enjoying it. I'm stitching it on, I'm 90% sure it's 16 count Aida. I'm 100% sure that it's Fiber on a Whim Cream and Sugar. Just not entirely sure. I don't think it's 14 count. I think it's 16 count. And now I'm second guessing myself. Maybe it's 18 count. I think it's 16 count. Anyway, that's where I got last Wednesday. All of the letters for that triangle are done. It's really fun. I kind of wish I was getting to stitch on it tonight, but I'm like, no. Pam, self-control. You'll get to it soon enough. Finish Tiny Town. Like, where are my piles? Okay, and then April started. So it was time for focus project number 1. Focus project number 1 for April is Heartstring Sampleries and the Scarlet House. They did a collaboration, Berry Bowl Sampler. So I am doing this side. My mom is doing this side, except I'm doing this side on this color and she's doing this side on that color. Everything is called for. Fabric is called for, except that we swap sides. Floss is called for. So I'm doing one side, my mom's doing one side. They'll get stitched together at the end. And then we started this before I had a shop. The plan was for it to hang in my mom's house. If she lets me, we'll hang it here at the shop. But if not, it will still hang at my mom's house. And I'm moving along. So I've been stitching on this since, I actually started it one day early on March 31st. I'll get thirsty, hold on. hold on, like where are you gonna go? I mean, you could walk away from a video, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I've been moving along on this. So since I have showed it last, but this is 14 count Heartland by Picture This Plus. And this was the first project. My mom taught me to cross stitch, but then she has not cross stitched really probably since the 90s. So this was her first project back into it. So we went with 14 count. And since you've seen it last, I have stitched this bowl, this situation. My mom's half will have the other side. I'm gonna save, there's some little over one stitching that goes in here on Ada that's not gonna be very fun. So I think I'm gonna back stitch the words in here, but that'll happen at the end. And then I did this one and started this one. The problem with these two is that I ran out of Weeks Dye Works collards, and I was like, oh, it'll be okay, I have some at the shop. I don't have some at the shop. So just had to place an order. So I'm guessing it'll be a week and a half or so until I can finish those bowls. But there's a few things right here that happen. I'm totally gonna finish my side. Now, it is possible that my collards won't come in until it's time to move on to the next focus project, and that's fine, because my mom is like way up here still. So we're not gonna like have this totally completed for a while, but berry bowls are not my favorite thing to stitch. But I loved the idea of having two sides and two people stitching on something. But the more of them I stitch, the more I'm enjoying them. This one right here, like I'm so in love with this one. Oh my gosh. But I actually think this one's my favorite. I love that it's like triangle-ness. It's just really fun. It's been really fun. Okay. And then I don't know, if I finish my side and my mom hasn't finished her side, can I count that as a finish? Even though I don't have like that, I won't have this part finished until my mom finishes her side. Do I count that as a finish? I kind of feel like I count that as a finish. What would you do? Sorry, I'm having some folding difficulties. Was that it? Is that all I stitched on? 1, 2, that was all I stitched on. That brings us to plans. So my plan, in case I don't get to film a Flosstube next Wednesday, I gotta bring that back. Formulate your plans, Pam. Plans. I'm gonna continue stitching on the berry bowl and Tiny Town, obviously, until that's finished. But you've already seen what comes after Tiny Town finishes. If I finish berry bowl, or I finish the 10 days focus, then Barbara Anna, holy moly, Barbara Anna's Tree of Magic will be my next focus project. And I am way down on the last tier, the bottom tier. So it's entirely possible I will finish that this month. Hopefully. And that's kind of all I have for stitchy plans. Focus projects, shop project, stitching my attempts. That brings us to shop update. Da, da, da. What do I want to talk about? Okay. I am hosting a stitch along for Rosewood's Manor's A Tisket a Tasket. You don't have to buy the pattern from me. If you have the pattern and you want to stitch along with us, fantastic. We're going to use the hashtag Tisket Tasket Basket Sale. We're starting May 1st. If you'd like, I'm going to follow the hashtag on Instagram, but we're going to be doing most of the sharing over in the Facebook group that I created called Stitching in the Land of Good Enough. So what do I want to say about this? So start gathering your supplies. I am going to chunk it out. So I'm going to have it pieced out so that if you you can do things 3 ways. I'll have it so that you could corner start, you can center start, or it's a stitch along and it's good enough and I'm not really big into rules. Start wherever the heck you want. But if you're somebody who wants to try to get this done, I'm gonna have it broken up into 12 parts. So we can try to have it finished in a year. What do I wanna say? I've had a list. I had sold out of my batch that I came home, the charts that I came home from market with. I had sold out of the trunk show charts. I have 1 chart left from my next batch of charts that just came in over the weekend. And then I've placed another batch of charts. So if you are looking for a chart and you want to get on my list, email me. Do not leave it in the comments. Don't email my Flosstube email. Email my shop email, stitchnewengland@gmail.com. Floss Packs. Can we talk about this color palette for a sec? Like, I can't. It's beautiful. I cannot wait for May 1st to start stitching this. Floss Packs. Again, I sold out of my first batch. Second batch just came in, so anybody who's on my list for the second batch will be getting invoices today. Third batch has just been ordered. I have a few extra in the third batch still available. Again, email me. I won't have them on the website until they come in. So if you want to make sure that you get part of that third batch and you aren't on my list already, shoot me an email. And then if I have more people, I'll put an order in for a fourth batch. Weeks Dye Works, they're 100% Weeks Dye Works floss. The other thing I want to say about the chart is there's no DMC conversion. If you're a DMC gal or fella, if you're DMC folk, you don't want to do the Weeks Dye Works, I can try to make a DMC conversion for you. I tried it last week and I wasn't doing so well. But it is all Weeks Dye Works. There is no DMC conversion in the chart. I'm just letting you know that now. What else do I want to say about that? I feel like I'm forgetting something. The floss packs are the amount of floss you need to stitch it on 28 count, which is what it is called for. Okay. Next, and then speaking of floss, the Floss Clubs, I'll have the sign-up link in the description box below. I'm offering 4 Floss Clubs. Invoicing goes out next week. Shipping will happen the first few days of May. So if you are signed up for the Floss Club, or one of the Floss Clubs, or some of you are signed up for 2 of the Floss Clubs, look for the invoices about middle of next week. Middle to the end of next week. I have no idea where the dates fall. Okay, and then lastly, I'm super excited about this. My mom has, for a few years now, makes these tote bags. And every time I take my tote bag somewhere, everybody always comments on it because it's got like that plastic canvas and you can stitch on it. I have not stitched on mine. Anyway, my mom is gonna make some to sell in the shop. I have 5 of them here I'm gonna show you. I'm not putting them on the website. So if you see one that you like, shoot me a message, email me. Again, the shop email. I think I'm gonna take my Flosstube email off the description box because I don't want there to be confusion. That probably sounds smart. Because I only check my Flosstube email, my stitchinginthelandofgoodenough@gmail.com, like once every few weeks, where I check my stitchnewengland@gmail.com multiple times a day. Okay, anyway, let me show you the bags. First, I want to say that I've had my bag for a couple of years now, and I'm in love with it. And sometimes I use it as a pocketbook, and sometimes, mostly, well, I toggle. Sometimes I just use it as a pocketbook. By the way, this is the tote bag, the purse that I left behind at a hotel on my way home from market. And I was, I mean, it was annoying that I had to replace like all my cards and stuff, but I was devastated that I wasn't gonna have my bag anymore. But the hotel mailed it to me and I have it and it's fine. I don't have it here though, because when I didn't have it, I switched over to another pocketbook and now I have to switch back. And anyway, they're perfect for taking all your projects to your stitchy groups, and they're perfect for storing all your stuff in at retreats. I'm gonna show you the bags. I'm selling them. I'm calling my mom. I've named them for my mom. They're Mama T's totes. And they're big. So I popped that out funny. So they're a good size. I don't know, 16 inches maybe? I'm not a good judge. I should have probably tape measured these. Anyway, so this one has cute little spools and buttons. So cute. And then the second one, there's another one like that. Has the spools on the bottom, but on the top it has like all the little like pin cushions and buttons and irons and tape measures and adorbs. Anyway, this is stitchable. So you could like stitch your initials in here. I think I measured it to be like 12 count. I'm too lazy to stitch on mine though. Like I just want to stitch on my projects. I don't want to add another project to my situation. But anyway, there is one with hot air balloons. Look how cute that is. I don't know what's, oh, like a sky, like a swirly cloudy sky. That makes sense. My mom is smart. And then 2 strawberries. These are stinking cute. Strawberry number 1. We have some chocolate dipped strawberries with cute little like strawberry vines up top. And then it's a tan mesh instead of the white. Really like that. And then lastly, strawberry vines on the bottom. And then I don't know what this is. Like a pattern up top, a coordinating pattern with the white fabric. So those are my mom's tote bags. Mama T's totes. I'm selling them for $60. Message me if you're interested or shoot me an email. She's not taking fabric requests. So she's been wanting to do this for a while, but she doesn't want to get hung up on like people placing orders. So whenever I get them, they'll be her choice of fabric and I get them when I get them. That is what I've been told. She is my mom. I must listen. She's also adorable. I'm trying to convince her that she needs to do a video with me. I don't think it'll happen. Maybe someday. Okay, I think that's all I have for you today. Hopefully it will not be 2 weeks until we get to chat again. I'm trying to think ahead to next week. I do have a stitchy getaway that I'm doing at the end of this month, but that shouldn't impact next week. Also, if you are in my Hawk Run Hollow Zoom, which is still currently closed, I am getting close to thinking I might open it up. We'll see. Is next Thursday. So look for that email next week. I think that's it. I think that's all we need to say. All right. I will chat with you all next week. In the meantime, I hope you all stay safe and healthy and that you're happy and that you can get a lot of stitching in, stitching done, stitching in, stitchy time. You know what I'm saying. All right. See you next week. Bye, everyone.